I'm Danielle Horton. I'm a co-chair for the existing USGBC-LA Existing Buildings Committee. And today we're very excited to have a joint meeting with BOMA and the City of LA. We feel like it's very important for us to work together and do these types of partnerships to get feedback, to have people on the table and have those discussions. So today the City of LA and California, they have some aggressive targets like reducing energy consumption in buildings by 50%. And I think it's very important to get feedback from building owners. So the meeting today was a partnership between many organizations to try to get critical stakeholders that will be impacted by this on the table so that we can have a good dialogue and have our feedback kind of incorporated into what the final regulation is going to be so that it's more realistic and can be a successful program. Thank you.
Well, we have a national portfolio of buildings that we manage for our clients, and we've been benchmarking all of our buildings, commercial assets, since 2007. And we actually have been working very closely with Energy Star, and it's one of the foundations of the policies that we have for our building managers. And we're proud to say that this year we are going next week to Energy Star for the 8th year in a row of earning Sustained Excellence Energy Star Partner of the Year for all of the good work our managers are doing at their buildings and benchmarking and closely conserving energy. And also this year we received over 406 Energy Star labeled buildings, so we became an elite member of their certification nation.
Chiefly it would be cost. It comes down to cost and the ability to pass through this cost to a tenant or to absorb the cost. But before you can think about the cost, is understanding the cost, whether it's the changes in codes and how that's going to impact me, whether it's what the tenant's response and their behavior, managing and understanding their behavior and what they're going to do, how to augment that. And then passing through the education of where we are in terms of energy efficiency, how it relates to code, how it relates to use, how it relates to building performance. So once having a handle on that, you can have a better perspective in terms of dealing with it and managing it.
I feel like there's not a program that we're not participating in. I feel like there's literally every single program there is, we participate in them. So with LADWP, we've done their ETAP program, we did their retro commissioning program. We're never not sort of working with their rebate programs. I had DWP people walk in one of my buildings just last week for another program, and with the BOMA LED program, we did a ton of those. Not in LA, but the cities or the areas that have it, we do demand response, where it's a lot of demand response program participation, water rebates. So we are big participators in programs, and in fact, we're often the guinea pigs for new programs, so they can see if they work before they spread them to the larger marketplace. So we're very proactive on our partnerships with our utilities and other organizations that are focused, like we are, on reducing energy and water use in buildings. I know exactly what it was. And so the way my ideal program, and there was a company doing this that is sadly having to change their business model, and I will explain why, where they were doing these great ASHRAE Level 2 audits for free, and then finding measures that would reduce energy use in buildings. It's not currently extended to water. And then they were implementing their findings using on-bill financing. So it was perfect. It was no cash flow for us. We were implementing everything without having to wait for the next capital cycle. It was fantastic. It worked for us from a tax and accounting standpoint. Unfortunately, that company has had to sort of suspend that program because on-bill financing money is really hard to spend. Utilities make that money very hard to spend, and I think that comes from maybe a lot of oversight, I would say, from the PUC level in terms of reimbursing utilities when they do spend that money. And so they're very, it's very hard to get a measure passed through on-bill financing. And then for the OBF money to actually show up for the vendor takes a really long time. So to me, an ideal program would be one that overhauled the on-bill financing system, really made that the focus, so that building owners were only doing their retrofits using on-bill financing money. Owners are cost neutral, it doesn't affect us, doesn't affect the capital process, we don't have to allocate other funds. And then the city is getting those changes, those retrofits within months as opposed to a year, 18 months. So to me, funding going to on-bill financing, training people to both do the audits and implement the findings, and actually enabling them to do that, enabling them to identify measures and put them into place and use OBF to pay for it, is the best solution, both for energy and water. Maybe water projects could have a longer payback allowed. Right now the cutoff is 5 years, and maybe water projects, because water is cheap, could be longer. But to me, that's a great solution that worked really, really well for us. And I'm really sad that it's not going forward, because to me that was a real great key to making a lot of projects happen really fast.
Absolutely, it's an achievable goal. We're going to have to work on multiple fronts. We're going to have to reduce energy use in buildings. We're going to have to change the mix or the greenhouse gas intensity of our energy supply. And we're going to have to make a big push on zero emission or low carbon vehicles, primarily electric vehicles. Together, buildings and transportation account for about 80% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions or more. And so we need to work on all of those fronts. Thankfully, we are making progress. The Department of Water and Power is significantly reducing the greenhouse gas intensity of the electricity grid by getting off coal and transitioning to renewable energy and natural gas. We see building owners responding to market signals as well as their own bottom lines and reducing energy use in their buildings. So we're going to have a lower greenhouse gas emissions profile of the electricity that they do use, and then they're going to use less. Finally, the City of LA is aggressively working with the state to attract or to provide the infrastructure support, mainly in electrical vehicle charging stations, to help folks recognize that instead of having to go to the gas station, they can go to the electric charger to power up their car.
We are benchmarking. It's like, I think everybody says, you can't measure what you can't manage. You can't manage what you can't measure. So it's very important that the buildings are benchmarked. That's like a starting point. I'd say one way, and we talked about at the meeting today, one way that the city, for example, can help building owners benchmark their buildings, one is like have regulations or maybe carrots, incentives that will help more buildings be sub-metered. And the other thing is, like, some of the utilities now have a green button that will allow this data to be automatically benchmarked on Energy Star Portfolio Manager. I think that anything that they can do to streamline the process and make it easier, it would be great. And also different types of buildings or different lease structures, they're going to have different challenges. So it's important to be flexible in terms of the regulations. And in terms of what we're doing, all the low-hanging fruit, all the things that have short payback or operational improvements we have done like from measuring, from the load reduction projects to all the way to the deep retrofits in terms of our plant upgrades. Like on this property we've replaced our chiller, our cooling tower, we've done lighting retrofits, and we've done that in a lot of our properties. So for Class A buildings, I'd say is not as challenged, but I think that the challenge is going to be for the kind of Class B and C buildings, some of the smaller facilities that don't have those resources. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity at those properties.